The dark truth about the 2022 World Cup. Qatar has drawn criticism ever since it was chosen to host the 2022 World Cup. The competition had to be moved to November and December since the Persian Gulf's nation's hot temperatures prevented it from taking place during the traditional summertime, right when the national leagues are in full flow. Domestic competitions will have to suspend play for up to 6 weeks as a result of losing their key players. How Qatar, a tiny country with 3 million people with little history in soccer, managed to win a vote in secrecy to host the tournament is still under investigation. The treatment of foreign workers building the stadiums and the accommodations for out-of-town fans has been criticized by human rights organizations. The event, according to the administration, is a trigger for enhancing its labor regulations. Allegations of vote buying have been circulating since 2010, when soccer's governing body FIFA awarded Russia and Qatar the rights to back-to-back World Cups. Before the 2010 vote, 2 members from the 24-man FIFA Executive Committee that selects the host were suspended after they were caught on camera promising their support in exchange for money. France is still looking into how the 2022 tournament was chosen. Additionally, a U.S. indictment accusing numerous officials of accepting funds to support Qatar's candidacy was submitted in 2020. In January, their trial is scheduled to start in a federal court in New York. Qatar denies receiving payments for the hosting rights from anyone. FIFA stated that hosting the competition in the nation was consistent with its mission to introduce soccer to new markets. Qatar is wagering that the competition would help update its image and elevate it to the level of regional rival Dubai as a tourist and business destination. The World Cup is the most viewed sport event in the world, with 3.6 billion televisions and internet viewers for the most recent edition, which was hosted in Russia in 2018. Before the first game on November 20th, according to a Bloomberg intelligence estimate, Qatar was on track to finish $300 billion worth of infrastructure investments. That may seem like a lot for a nation the size of Connecticut, but Qatar is one of the richest countries in the world due to its enormous natural gas reserves. According to the event's planner, the event will boost the economy by $17 billion, or 10% of the GNP in 2021. Inhumane treatment and hazardous working circumstances have been documented in media stories regarding laborers building new stadiums and other infrastructure. Amnesty International charged that the government did not adequately look into the numerous migrant worker deaths. The kafala sponsorship system, which requires workers' employers' permission to move employment, go home, or even establish a bank account, has come to light as a result of the World Cup preparations. The nationality of an employee overwhelms how they are treated, according to an allegation of racial discrimination against Qatar made by the UN in 2019. The International Trade Union Conference, ITUC, and Human Rights Watch claim that the kafala system exposes migrant workers to routine mistreatment. Without the consent of their sponsor, employees were unable to change occupations or even leave the country. Amnesty International documented severe exploitation in November 2013 that included forcing employees to sign fictitious receipts of pay to get their passports back. If 2 years on, after the 2022 World Cup award, the Qatar government has not done the fundamentals, they do not commit to human rights, said Shannon Burrows of the ITUC after touring a labor camp. The companies responsible for building the infrastructure for the 2022 World Cup forced workers to stay by failing to pay them the promised wages and withholding the necessary worker ID permits, making them illegal aliens. This led to poor working conditions, according to a September 2013 article in The Guardian. According to the research, there is data that suggests that during a building frenzy preparing for 2022, workers may experience exploitation and abuse as defined by the International Labor Organization, ILO. Men living in decrepit and unclean circumstances in labor camps were depicted in a movie played for a labor rights organization. Qatar announced plans to abolish the kafala system in May 2014. However, implementation was put off until 2016. Even if promised improvements were carried out, employers would still exercise significant control over employees. For example, A proposed requirement that wages must be paid into a designated bank account would not cover laborers paid in cash. The government has been constructing some new housing and committed to enhancing safety, despite claims that employees are mistreated. To destroy the kafafel system, Qatar reportedly implemented new labor rules in 2020 that guaranteed a minimum income and make it simpler to switch jobs. The number of hours that employees can toil outside in the summer heat was further regulated by rules put in place in 2021. The changes make Qatar's labor rules some of the most benevolent towards workers in the Gulf, at least on paper. Although rights organizations admit that working conditions have improved recently, they nevertheless regularly publish reports that detail unpaid salaries, legal recruitment fees, and a lack of effective labor law enforcement. Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, the Emir of Qatar, is in charge of the executive and judicial branches of the country. Political parties are forbidden, and most people lack basic civil and political rights because they are not citizens. The media has drawn attention to the fact that homosexuality is against the law in Qatar, where offenders risk fines and up to 7 years in prison. According to the HRW, Qatar has arbitrarily detained LGBT people and mistreated them while they were in custody. According to the Gay Times, there are no recorded instances of the death sentence being used against homosexuals in Qatar. Although it is technically against the law to be homosexual, this is not always the case. Although displays supporting lesbian, homosexual, bisexual, and transgender rights are allowed at stadiums under FIFA guidelines, a top official in charge of security during the tournament cautioned that rainbow flags may be taken away from supporters to protect them from being harmed. Human Rights Watch issued a study in March 2021 urging Qatar to change the male guardianship system, a patchwork of customs and laws that subject many women's private choices to the approval of male family members. Danish soccer supporters and players also advocate for boycotts, but the plan was ultimately rejected by soccer authorities in the participating nations. Amnesty and other organizations disputed the notion of a stay-away and claimed that Qatar's labor reforms have not been effectively enforced. However, they note that the changes have generally been positive. Because it doesn't wish to be prominent at a competition that has cost thousands of people their lives, sportswear company Hummel claimed it changed the appearance of the Danish national team kits. The mayor of Paris and several other French cities have said that they will not provide viewing areas and colossal screens for spectators to watch the event. Some blame Qatar's subpar human rights record, while others pointed to financial considerations, rising energy prices, and the harsh winter. Talking about the weather, it should be a lovely day outside. The temperature typically drops in December with a high of 85 degrees Fahrenheit, 29 degrees Celsius, on average in mid-November. Nevertheless, some of the 8 outdoor venues in the competition have air conditioning, which makes FIFA's goal of making the 2018 World carbon neutral more difficult to achieve. Some fans are being urged to stay in other cities in the region and fly to games because there aren't many hotels in Qatar. How are supporters expected to act in Qatar? The nation's clothing code honors its Muslim heritage. While there is some latitude in 5-star hotels, most public areas, including malls, require women and men to cover their bodies from the shoulders to the knees. Public shows of affection are frowned upon, even holding hands is uncommon. With a few notable exceptions, only restaurants associated with upscale hotels are permitted to serve alcohol, while World Cup officials have stated that travelers will be allowed to drink in designated fan zones. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to our channel. See you soon in the next video!